Me and turn-based RPGs have been having a bit of a rough time together of late, so I decided to take them out to dinner to make up for it to some degree. Mostly I traded sheepish glances with blackguards until its sunbeams started to blind me again, and there wasn't much to talk about until all of a sudden Divinity Original Sin, who I hadn't initially given much of a chance, leapt onto the table, paid the entire bill, and proceeded to romance me in such a manner that I lost track of any sense of metaphor. In any case, Divinity Original Sin is a turn-based RPG being developed and published by Larian Studios. It's an early access game on Steam, currently in its alpha phase, so once again this is a preview, and some of the problems with it may be subject to change as the development process continues. What it currently offers is a good-looking open world, with a somewhat narrow range of environments, although plenty of it is still in development. My only concern is that most of the world is persistently loaded in, which is useful because it allows you to survey the outlying areas, but the addition of new areas could lead to a fair few dropped frames, an issue which is already noticeable. I was first aroused by the fact that you start the story with an intriguing quest to investigate a murder that appears to have been committed using the dark and mysterious power of source magic. You're not some unfortunate soul desperately fleeing a minimum security royal dungeon, nor are you a mystical orphan goat farmer swept up by a vague prophecy. You play as two characters sent to a place to do their job, whose personalities you develop through actions and complex dialogue options. As you try and solve the murder, you enroll in numerous side quests and recruit additional characters to your cause. This helps to flesh out the world around you, and integrates what at first appears to be side content with the main questline to create a very satisfying and exciting approach to an unpredictable story. The gameplay all works pretty smoothly. As you travel around towns and cities, you have a great deal of freedom in how you play. You can encourage a beggar to steal bread and promptly hand them over to the authorities. You can launch a devastating array of attacks on the inn's resident cat. You can move a wide range of objects in the environment for the purpose of encasing NPCs in an impenetrable barrel fort. At this point I should clarify that I played this with a friend using the drop-in multiplayer, which is already very functional and adds to the experience, particularly with the multiplayer dialogue options, which can handily be turned off in single player. And we chose to roleplay as scumbags to see where that got us. As it happens, we unwittingly murdered an essential NPC in our first session and chose to start again, but the cool thing that we noticed was that the manner in which you play the game and interact with the world affects your character's personality, which provides skill buffs depending on where you fall on trait scales, and I really liked that feature. From here on, and from pretty much every point prior to this, whenever I mention something good about Divinity, you should assume a subtextual reference to Blackguard's shitness is present. Combat is another strength for Divinity. Although it's turn-based, there's a freedom and a fluidity to it that certain other games never came close to achieving. The attacks are varied and well animated and satisfying, and they actually fucking land without resorting to profaning your CPU with crow's blood and cat piss as an offering to the gods of 90% probability. There is a clear difficulty curve, a variety of enemies, flanking penalties, and unspent action points carry over to the next turn. There's a near seamless transition between combat, general gameplay, and story, a flying swordswoman, a good UI that doesn't dominate the display, and it didn't take long for me to realize I was actually having fun, willingly and happily investing my time into a turn-based RPG. Now, before the magnitude of that particular blasphemy is given enough time to sink in, I'd like to point out some of the problems with Divinity. It's relatively straightforward to accidentally initiate combat and murder, to pick a random example, a cherished domesticated feline, causing you to suffer huge relationship penalties with most of the NPCs in the main hub and severely affecting your capacity to progress in the main quest. I once got stuck in a lighthouse. The environmental hazards can be a bit potent too at times. I did occasionally get the sense that rather than fighting, we were performing the Elder Scrolls on ice. There was a couple of instances where the AI let us down, once during an escort quest where the vulnerable NPC we were supposed to be protecting had the novel idea of charging at speed towards the nearest group of enemies, at which point they would repeatedly call for help as we caught up, making little or no attempt to attack or retreat. The second occasion was during a large-scale fight with some orcs. We defeated the grunts and approached the leader, aptly named as a giant orc trooper. Making sure to buff and heal ourselves to the cheesiest possible extent, we made our move to attack him. promptly realising that he was just passively accepting his fate rather than actually doing anything with his turns. More generally speaking, it would be nice for the crafting system to be explained a bit better, and to be able to trade support characters during multiplayer sessions. The armor upgrades don't make much sense either, considering your default gear for your dangerous job can just about be supplanted in quality by a soiled leather thong. All of these things are fairly trivial and easy to fix in comparison to my main gripe though, which is this. The economy of Divinity Original Sin suffers from Bethesda syndrome. By this, I mean that if you ever decide to try your hand at larceny, as any self-respecting scumbag roleplayer is wont to do, you'll soon find your apparently limitless inventory inundated with countless improbably large and irrationally valuable articles of crap. Fortuitously, the cities are densely populated by enablers who would like nothing more than to purchase someone else's family portrait which mysteriously disappeared just moments ago for a princely sum, along with 6 pork platters and a staggeringly fragrant cat skin rug you happen to find. So yeah, you can circumvent the notion of measured financial progression from about the point where you steal all the cutlery from the Hall of Heroes, a flaw that taints many a great RPG. Divinity remains an outstanding game nonetheless, though unfortunately our whirlwind romance was put on hiatus when an update broke my save file, and I would advise caution to those looking to invest in the game at this stage for that reason. It is a £29.99 investment after all. However, I look forward to future dates with Divinity once it's had time to mature, preferably one without blackguards pinching my arse cheeks the moment I turn my back.